Welcome to another episode of Money on the Table, the podcast where we talk about pricing and packaging for software companies. Today we actually have a very interesting guest, Tzachi, founder at FlyCode. We talked about the challenges and benefits of outcome-based pricing and then how it impacts your sales process and go-to-market. But before we actually dove into pricing, we spent some time on broken payment flows. And until I met Tzachi, I had no idea how big this problem actually was. Apparently, and according to some sources, this problem is as much as 20% of subscription revenue being lost every single year due to broken payment flows. So it actually is worth spending a little bit of time on. Here's my conversation with Tzachi. Have fun listening. Thanks for coming on the pod today. We had a quick conversation last week about both what you're doing and also about your pricing. And initially, I reached out to you because I wanted to talk about outcome-based pricing because that's what you guys are doing. But then I actually figured out that your solution was about something super interesting as well for everyone who's listening. So maybe you can start with a quick introduction. We can spend some time on your actual solution and the problem you're solving. And then later on, we go to outcome-based pricing. But I'm super curious if you can explain what you're doing and why that is so important.
Great, let's do it. So thanks for having me, Tjitte. I'm really happy to share. So FlyCode, basically the problem that we are solving is for everyone that is selling subscription. It can be an AI company, a SaaS company, a D2C company. Those companies every month have a chunk of payments that is failing. And those payments are failing for different reasons. For those founders or those finance CFO teams, they just look at the problem, they see a lot of failed payment every month. It's a bit of a challenging because this problem is kind of hidden. It's happening in the back end, and you're kind of relying on your subscription management or your payment provider to solve it. So you're using Stripe or Shopify or Recurly or ChargeBee or any of those options. You kind of hope that they have everything figured out. But eventually, FlyCode is helping to recover more payments than any other solution in the market today. Every time there is a failed payment, it kind of hit our model. The model is predicting when is the best time to retry the payment, when is the best time to send communication, if we need to retry different cards in the end of the recovery. We're doing a lot of stuff eventually. We look at the payment itself, and our customers are measuring us and our ability to boost their revenue every month. That's what we do.
I mean, it's funny because I spend so much, like I literally spend every day on pricing and packaging for software and like AI and SaaS companies. But until I was speaking to you, I had no idea how big this problem was. Like, sure, I was definitely familiar with broken payments, but then in preparation of doing today's podcast, I started looking into the metrics and into the data. And then I saw claims as much as more than like 20% of subscription payments just breaking apart like on this particular topic. So maybe you can explain to me as if I'm 5 years old, like why does it break? Because to me it sounds like, hey, I've got ChargeBee, they're gonna like literally charge your credit card or whatever, or gonna send you an invoice. I am almost thinking, well, this is now taken care of, I can ignore it, but you're telling me I cannot. So like what's going down there?
Yeah. So I think the real challenge is kind of more of really understanding. So it's either kind of awareness or education. Because what is happening? We all have subscription as consumers. So we can take an example from this. I have a subscription to Netflix or Spotify, and in the B2B side, right, or Slack subscription or any other Notion subscription. And I'm paying those companies like every month. And in a certain month, this subscription will fail. My card is still valid, everything is fine, but they tried something changed with the issuer. They tried the payment in a different time. I have some issues with my bank or my card itself and something. So most of the time from the merchant point of view, you will see something like insufficient fund or do not honor. So kind of a generic words of declines. And eventually what is happening, that those payments are failing, right? And now, every time that the payment is failing, this customer is in a risk of churn. We call it involuntary churn because the customer really didn't want to cancel, but sometimes they just kind of, after 30 days you will try the payment,
Yeah.
It will just fail and you lost. You lost the full LTV of the customer and you lost the subscription. So this is why it's kind
so
of
stupid, right? Like they
yeah.
don't want to churn, and just losing someone and losing your revenue on this, it's just insane to think
Yeah,
about.
and the frustration is huge. Those companies, the ones that are really trying, like the big ones that are trying to optimize, we are trying basically to take these technologies that the big, like the Netflix of the world and Spotify and the Uber of the world have, and just bring it to everyone with really
Yeah.
simple tools. So this is what we are really trying to do, to democratize this kind of payment optimization completely. But those companies are struggling. They are sending email to the customer, hey, update your card, and emails that often people are, they don't see the flow doesn't really work. And this is why eventually we kind of started there, and this is the area that we are really trying to focus on.
Who's to blame here? Like, is it the bank? Is it like the payment providers? Is it the companies are right, like doing it in between those payments? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Like,
So it's complicated because eventually I think this is part of the issue with the payment stack and kind of the payment flow, because you are relying on the issuer bank to approve the transaction. There is eventually the cards, right, networks, there is a payment provider, it can be your subscription provider first, right, and then your payment provider because it can be different, and then the merchant itself, and then, so it have a lot of degrees of separation between them, and that's why it's such a big problem. So blame is, really depends. Sometimes it's a real problem. Sometimes it's, it's something that you cannot solve with the customer. Sometimes it's real fraud. We are in the area that the card is legit, the transaction is legit. You just need to find a better way to recover the payment.
I mean, how do you even first recognize this problem? Because I just see churn, right? I just see, hey, they stop paying or whatever. Maybe I will look into my personal billing system, etc. But that's probably where I stop. Like, how do I recognize I've got this particular problem?
So most of the companies share something, even if it's something really basic, like Stripe or Curly or Chargebee will share something, like even Shopify, kind of subscription management. They share something, so you see that the payment failing. And you hope like they retry the payment or send email to customers, and so eventually you see a bunch of payment fail, and eventually those customers will churn. So you see, but it's hard sometimes to estimate how big is the problem of failed payment. How much of those customers actually failing? What is the impact on my ARR? And this is where we kind of help every customer that we start to do like a real payment audit. Let's show you what you're really losing every month for failed payment. We have companies that have like 3-4 millions of failed payment every month. This is the scale, only failed payments. So it's a lot of money every month.
And once they start using FlyCode, like you can solve this and like the 100% of it, or is it part of so you just mentioned 3 or 4 million, right? Is it part of that? Or is it like the full amount you're talking about that you can recover?
So the goal really is to improve the recovery rate. So how much invoices eventually you are recovering every month, and we can benchmark against any of your subscription platform payment and eventually the goal, and related to our conversation about the pricing, we are here to recover more payments. You are measuring us on our ability to take your baseline and say, okay, now let's recover 20% more. So it's never 100% because it is a real problem. It's complicated. Sometimes the card really expired. Sometimes the customer doesn't have money. Sometimes it's a real challenge. You need the customer to do some kind of action, and we are helping with this as well. But eventually we are being measured on more revenue every month. Yeah.
I mean, how did you get familiar with this problem? Because again, you said as well, it's hidden. I think it's a silent killer. How did you make it not silent for you, right? Like, how did you uncover this, and when do you say, hey, I think I can fix this?
So it's a funny story. We actually heard about this problem. So when we started, we spoke with 100 CFOs and companies, but we heard it. I think the most kind of challenging started with e-commerce. E-commerce most of the time are really sophisticated businesses. They ship real subscription product to their customers in the Shopify ecosystem, and kind of this is how we heard it for the first time. And because they are really sophisticated, they use real data and they know the impact of failed payment, and for them it's real inventory out of the door. So if the payment failed, they are not shipping the product. So if you are creating a habit of using a subscription product in real life, like a deodorant,
it's not really lagging, right? Like it's an instant. Okay, that makes sense.
So this is kind of, we heard it, and then we kind of started to speak with e-commerce, SaaS and more, and the problem became really, really clear and the challenge from there. And we are coming from payment, all of us, all the founders doing fintech and payment for more than 10 years.
I mean, that makes sense, right? And it's funny how it's often overlooked. I overlook it myself in that sense as well. Again, I know like payment flows, they need to make sense. You need to make sure that they're fixed and working. But then, like, just you saying, right, there's all these companies connecting this whole payment flow before it actually gets to your bank. So there's also so many places that can go wrong. So it's super interesting. Like, I didn't know how big this problem was before. And so you're saying, okay, we have companies like doing 3 or 4 million, like broken payments. I'm curious, like, when is this a problem that really starts either maybe not occurring but becoming big enough to say I should spend time on this? Like, what stage at the company?
So just to be clear, you don't need to have like 4 million of failed payment every month to start, right? We have companies all sizes. We have companies that just started. Eventually, it's a revenue that you don't want to be lost, right? You want to recover real payment for the customer. Yeah. You acquire them, you activated them. You want it's a real revenue for the company. So any size will work on that sense, and we're trying to make it easier for companies to start, right? We have an app in Stripe, so you can install, we'll help you to config. It's done, like we can launch you today, and you will see results immediately. And that's, I think, the key value. Obviously, you need to have some kind of a fail payment. It's more related to the industry and what is the product, right? Product with more tendency to have a fail payment, kind of, it's most of the time it's more irrelevant.
Do you also see that the majority of your customer base is then looking for monthly revenue, in the sense that, okay, these guys are billing monthly rather than annually? Or do you have just as like many annual and also breaking down that? Because I can imagine people spending some manual time on the annual ones, whereas like the monthly billing is completely automated and people don't want to touch it. Is that correct, or is it?
Most of the time, the companies that are billed monthly or quarterly have more challenges, and and models will really make an impact. We still have customers that bill kind of on a yearly basis, but the challenges tend to be a bit different. It's kind of the validity of the card, the expiration of the card, giving notice to the customer that it's actually going to be renewed. So we are helping there as well, but the majority of the customers are monthly, quarterly.
It's funny because this conversation also sheds a bit of a new light on. I had a conversation last night with someone who was building a new solution for, like, you can build your pricing page instantaneously with just a prompt. It actually worked beautifully. Then it would automatically set up like the customer portal, and it would also get your billing up. Like, all you had to do is then do the integrations, and they vibe coded this, and it actually looked surprisingly good. Like, I was very skeptical, but then I was seeing it. I was like, oh shit, like I can actually see, and especially if they improve the insights part, that you can do experiments or your pricing page. That was a no-brainer. But I have already been a bit in dubio, like, vibe coding, yes or no, when should you do it? I think I've said this out loud on my LinkedIn as well. I don't think you can just vibe code yourself a SaaS company, because it's so much more. It's compliance, it's all those things, right? It's the service level. But now you're showing me like there's all these small things can actually break apart. So should people even be thinking of vibe coding anything such as your own billing infrastructure, or at least maybe the start of it? Like, what's your perspective on this? Because things are changing. People think they can do it themselves. But if I'm hearing like how many things can break down, I'm skeptical.
I think coming from payment, I think we need to distinguish between two situations. Like, one is that the customer is in the loop, in the checkout, right, in the payment page, and then you can probably vibe coding or connect a few stuff and do a lot of experiments, add a few payment methods, make it local, make the currency local. Really make sure that you have all the options available to the customer. But eventually, a customer that want to pay you will find a way to pay you. And I think the interesting part is when the customer is not actually available, they're not in the loop. I have a subscription, I'm paying it, and now, that time on the month came that they need to charge me, and I'm not there, right? After 7 months, they want to collect Notion. They want to charge the customer. I'm not in the loop. They might email someone. The email will go to someone in the company. They will never see it. The subscription is dead. And then, this drop of service, failed payment. And so for me, I think in the more easy flows, like in the kind of in the top of the funnel in the checkout, it probably makes sense. We just released like 2 weeks ago a fully web app of dashboard, completely AI. We actually, no front ends, no real designers in the team, completely back end with Cursor. We even brought our product manager to start using a Cursor and how to do it, because we realized that something fundamentally changing, and as a small team that's really efficient, we need to adapt to the new world. We cannot take a template or a dashboard and adapt, because it's not how we code today.
Yeah.
So the team was able to release it. So in those areas that is the environment is very clear for you. You know what is the outcome. It's very clear that you control the system prompt. Then I think it makes sense more.
It's so funny. You just mentioned something again that you mentioned when we first met as well, and like you said, if someone wants to pay, they will find a way to pay. And like I gave you the example, and like maybe today I will get my new chair, right, my office chair. And when I first tried ordering, I just couldn't. Like I had to use different payment methods than I actually had. It also wasn't meant for companies, so I had to do it personally and then put it a lot of pain points. And eventually I had to ask someone else to purchase it for me, right, and then wire them the money. But it's so funny because then you told me, like if people want to pay, they will pay. They figure out a way. And I see so many people thinking about the front end, like thinking, okay, how can I make it easy, super easy to pay? And you're telling me, and now that I'm thinking about it, it is true. Like people, even if it sucks, people will probably, if they really want your solution, they will figure it out. But it's after that, right? When it breaks down, it is out of sight. People don't notice it. Like that's where the real danger is. So like to me, this is a bit of a shift in how I look at like, okay, where are the real pain points now? So that's super interesting.
Yeah, I think the real money in payments, it's in the back end. Right? I'm doing it for more than 10 years. The real money, the real challenges, the real hard stuff that you cannot just vibe coding to yourself. It's real back end, it's real challenges. You need to build models, you need to predict payment, you need to understand how the issue works, the bin data, everything related to the kind of, I would say, the payment metadata. And it's things that is really, really hard, even for smart and sophisticated teams to automate and make sure that it's working for them. So you have to have someone, either a payment expert that you hire or in-house. I know companies that are doing like, 200 million now that only kind of started with payment expert recently, and it's really challenging.
Yeah.
So the goal is really over time to invest more in the back end of the payment, because most of the time the impact on the bottom line will be meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely outside. So like even one of the most successful tech companies in the Netherlands, where I'm from, is Adyen. And the majority of people outside the tech community just has no clue. Even like other Dutch people, they have no clue what Adyen is sometimes, even though it's one of the most successful software companies in the country. But it's because like that all happens behind the scenes. So it's super interesting.
Adyen is a great example. We know them, we partner with them. They are really an amazing, sophisticated company around payment, and I think they pride themselves in the product that can really optimize the payment flow and kind of, it's a great example.
I want to shift to how you actually guys, how you make money, right? Because that's the reason we got in touch in the first place. But maybe we start, okay, like what does success for a client look like, right? What's the outcome you guys promise? So like you're gonna fix those broken payments, you're saying. So the outcome is, I assume, revenue, right?
Yeah.
So what's the business case for your client, and then we'll move on to your pricing, because I think that logically flows out of it.
So what's the business case? In order to understand the business case, we really need to understand like eventually what is the value for the customer. We look at two KPIs. One is the failure rate, the percentage of payment that is failing every month, and the recovery rate. How much you are recovering money today and how much you can recover from FlyCode. From this, we can go to things like your ARR impact and how much we are helping your bottom line. So this is the first thing. We are running a payment audit for free. We look at the numbers together every month. We look 1 year or 2 years back and we say this is where you are. This is how much you are losing. So this is really the business use case eventually. The recovery
and you're having meetings here, or is this completely automated and this is PLG?
Yeah. So some is automated for more kind of smaller customers that install our Stripe app. They can get kind of an automated report. For large customers, we actually want to go deeper. We want to show them the impact.
Yeah.
We go deeper on analyzing their failure rates and what is the reason and the distribution of the cards. We go very deep because eventually the model is trying to predict an outcome for them, right? So that's kind of, if for them, the CFO or the founder eventually asks, okay, eventually how much money you're going to add to my ARR. And this is kind of all the case studies in the website that we have, like 5, 6, 7% boost in the ARR. It's real and it's relevant for the customers.
Yeah, because then you get to outcome-based pricing, right? Like, so you say, okay, hey, if we do this together, I can basically promise you these results, or I'm going to estimate these results. But you're going to say, I'm going to make it risk-free for you. You don't pay until I actually get those results for you. But then I want a percentage of this. And I think for everyone who's been like not too active in pricing, but like been reading LinkedIn, they think, oh, this outcome-based pricing, this is supposed to be the holy grail. It's supposed to be easy, right? It's straightforward, it's binary. What's not to like about it? But from my experience, like when you say, I want now a percentage of the success, all of a sudden, a lot of things start playing, right? They think, hey, what if I'm too successful? Or like, even though there's no risk, like, why should I get started? There's all these things. So maybe first, like, how do you get a client from showing them the business case, then actually saying, hey, I want to pay, and then also later on, once the bill starts rising, once like you're super successful for a client, you're charging more and more money. How do you take them through this without them churning? Because again, at some point they start thinking, hey, I'm paying these guys way too much, can I get rid of them? So maybe, can you talk about like how does the sales process look like when you do outcome-based pricing?
Yeah. So I think you're right. It's challenging, but I think eventually it's a mentality thing and understanding like where is really the value. So when we started, when we thought about pricing, we said, okay, this is what we do. We kind of give you a range of how we'll boost your revenue. So outcome-based pricing really makes sense. This is what we really do. This is the value that the customer is getting, right? And it will probably make sense to those companies. And we went and validated that if we increase the recovery rate and your revenue and we'll ask for a cut out of it, you'll say, amazing, like I'm losing this amount. I have companies that are losing, we said, $500,000, a few million every month that they cannot recover. And I'm saying this money that is now lost, I will recover more of it.
Yes.
What's not to like? But it's challenging. Why it's challenging? One, because not all companies know how to kind of really buy like this, right? It's a mentality thing. Some of the companies work on a budget. They need a subscription. They need a line item that is very clear on the budget. Really challenging. Yeah. Some are not really, it's hard to persuade. You were saying, listen, this is the range. We'll put it in the contract. We'll commit to the range. What more than this, right? Still challenging. Okay, but how we'll calculate? Sometimes most of those things should be really straightforward. We want to have full visibility with the customer. Every day, every week, they can look at the reports with us and they know where we are. But yeah, it's challenging. Some of the customers said, okay, we get it. We understand how much you want. Every month it will be around, let's say, $10,000 or $20,000. Most of, in average, we want to pay you a subscription, which is kind of the average of the outcome-based pricing. So in some of the cases, we said, we don't want. We are trying to kind of figure out how to deal with those challenges.
I mean, this is such an interesting experiment because it shows where like rational economic theory, right, breaks down. Because you say, like, according to the rational theory, you say, even if I save you 10 cents of every, like, so out of every dollar, you pay me 90 cents and you get 10 cents, right? That should still, rationally speaking, be upside, and you should be saying yes to that. But they're never gonna say yes to that, right? So it's so funny, even if it's risk-free, which companies care about, right? Everyone's willing to pay for reducing risk. That's why like the whole insurance industry exists. And then again, you're saying like, I'm gonna just save this money from you. I just want to have a small percentage. And then it's fine if it's small amounts, but like you said, the moment it gets bigger, right? And they now have a budget, all of a sudden, even though this is new revenue that we have lost otherwise, it becomes a problem. And I think this is something a lot of people overlook before they actually go to outcome-based pricing. They think this is simple. They think, hey, if it's 100% risk-free, I'm gonna save you this money. I can take this percentage. That's not really the case. So us at RevFixer, we, like me and my co-founder, sometimes what we propose to certain clients if they don't like the risk profile, because I mean, consultancy, you never know, right? Like you have to take a jump, like a leap of faith. I'm gonna pay you guys this fixed amount. I'm just gonna hope you guys fix my pricing. But what we sometimes offer is say like, hey, we're gonna fix your pricing. You don't want to pay a fixed fee. How about outcome based? We say, okay, we're gonna increase your revenue based on the existing customers. Let's say you now make 5 million. We think we can get it up to 6 or 5.5. All we want is just a percentage of that part that goes up, like not even the rest. So it's completely risk free. And then all of a sudden, this conversation always switches from now it's a risk, and I'm not sure if I'm getting my money back, to, oh, what if you guys are too successful? Am I now paying you like 200 grand, right? It's so funny. Like this is something that cannot be overlooked, right? People aren't rational, and even B2B sales isn't B2B. It's just still human to human, right? So I think this irrationality is super interesting. Like, is there any? I asked you this like already, but I'm gonna ask you again. Like, is there any like lesson you draw from this, or like techniques you say like, hey, if you're still gonna try this, you should test this out?
Yeah, so first of all, we acknowledge we still sell to humans at the moment, might change in the future, and we come to this process with a lot of empathy and a lot of expertise, right? After you are selling to more than 100, 200 customers, you know what you are doing, you are coming with the experience, you partner with all the players in the market, so you have this kind of level of credibility. But I think the key thing is really to understand the company and what are kind of the psychology or the way that they are working internally. And if they want something else, if they want to try a fixed price for a few months, if they want to change, if they want to pay a subscription for the first 3 years, so eventually we are trying to be flexible, we are trying to understand the company, we are trying to give them the way to show the results. And just trying to kind of come to all this process. We really, over time, we see that we have really almost zero churn over time. Yeah. And the reason, because you can benchmark me every month, you kind of feel very comfortable that I'm aligning with you. And I think this is the key for me, like the way to solve it, the way to kind of continue to do it by still aligning with the customer, understanding their needs, and kind of come with empathy to this process and make sure that the customer is really successful. And most of the time, from what we predict, we even can kind of stretch it a bit more. And we have customers for a year, for 2 years. So after 2 years or a year, you're seeing the result. You are one of our biggest fans, like every time.
You mentioned partners. Does outcome-based pricing also make it harder to partner with people? Because again, you get into this whole like storytelling part, and you have to take someone by the hand and explain them, okay, this is how it works, etc. Have you even tried using partners to sell? And like second, do you then see a bigger challenge again because of the outcome-based pricing instead of a very simplistic fixed fee?
I think that our partners really value it, because eventually most of the partners eventually want that the customer will be successful. So let's take Stripe, for example. We have an app in Stripe in the marketplace. We launch kind of payment orchestration with them. I think we are eventually trying just to help their customers more, right? It's the same with Shopify, it's the same with agencies or referral partner or payment experts that are working with us. Eventually it's just, and we have a few of those as well, people that refer the customer for us. They want to make sure that the customer is successful. So the model still align with them, even with the partner, because we're saying, okay, look, we'll make the customers happy, and then we can align with the customer. So I think it's actually contributing us to make it a bit more easy to partner, because the value is tangible and measurable, and most of the time our partners are helping us to measure the value for the customers.
I think that's an important part, right? Like really measuring, because now you kind of get into this attribution part. So I had a conversation not too long ago with the CTO of Intercom, right? That was also like, that was the first podcast I did, and they also use outcome-based pricing, but they have a different solution. They have a very like a binary result. So they can measure, so that they help with the product Fin. They help, like it's a customer service bot. So they help the customer, yes or no, right? Like, so someone starts a chat with you, a customer support chat, and either they will walk away, right? And that's as a resolution today. Or they say their problem is solved. That's also a resolution. I mean, true outcome based would just charge, of course, for the satisfied customer, and kind of like they still have to figure this part out when someone walks away, because is that the resolution, is that value, right? But that's, I guess, for the future. And then, of course, if someone needs actual support, it's not a resolution, and like now you have more time for those humans. But it's very binary, those two things. You can measure, like, is it true for the first one, yes or no? Is it true for the second one, yes or no? And you're saying, hey, it is not that binary. We're going to help you save money, but it's a number. We can put a number on it. And that's still attribution. So, like, how do you make sure? Because you already said we're going to show them in the platform how much we save. What else do you do just to make sure everyone sees this number? And also, how do I know as a client that you save the money for me? And like, because it's such a black box, I guess, right? You could be lying or making those things up, and I would have to believe you, like, and look in your eyes and say, okay, I'm going to believe this guy. Like, how do you make sure? Like, how do you build that trust?
Yeah, I think this is key. This is really a key point for us. And when we started the product, we built it with this philosophy in mind, that there is no argument about attribution. We and the customer are completely aligned. That's why all the process, from the sign up to the payment audit, to onboarding you and showing you, to the tracking, to our ability to show you results every week, every month, we are completely aligned with you. So we have a kind of shared belief on the numbers, and the numbers are correct. So it's always, we always kind of, the first layer of it is, let's use your platform. So I'll give Stripe or Shopify or whatever you are using. In most of our integration, we can attribute the success into the platform, so you see it in your own native dashboard. Let's say in Stripe Recovery or in Shopify or in any of the solution. So that's kind of a key element of it. And second is the ability to look back, historical, 1 year or 2 year, and benchmark based on you. So even if you are coming with your own data or your own dashboard and you're saying, this is my year back, and we validate, we do the report, we validate that the report is correct or it's using the same attribution. And most of the time in failed payment, eventually the payment failed, someone recovered the payment and the money is in your bank account. So it's kind of, in that sense, if the payment was successful eventually, you might say, okay, but it was, you can save it in other ways, or it can go saved anyway. But eventually, if you are really measuring us on the same benchmark, on the same KPI, did we rescue more? Did we save more payments than any of the other months in the last year or two? If the answer is yes, then it's relevant.
I'm also curious if you can be too successful, and this touches on your customer lifetime or potential customer lifetime. So I think you said you guys will go to 0% churn, or at least like closer to zero. Like every month you get closer and closer to it. I can imagine that at some point, whoever bought your solution, right, who bought FlyCode, acquired it, they're gonna like swap jobs. Someone else gets in charge, and all they see, I'm paying this big bill, but also have 0% churn. So they now think like, hey, we don't really have a problem. How are you gonna like resolve that? Because again, this is a bit like irrationality, but I've worked a long time in enterprise sales. I just know these things happen, especially when someone leaves and you're too successful, and now all of a sudden it's no longer a problem. So how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so it does happen to us, and often when it happened to us, we sometimes need to restart the process completely. So we need to go back and say, this was your historical. This is what you're doing with FlyCode today. So it's challenging, but it kind of forces us to resell completely and show the value again, aligning again on the reports, making sure that we are aligned there. But once you started it and you see the boost, like taking it out is taking a huge chunk of the revenue, and then it's a challenging point. So you can now switch or do like a basic settings in one of the platforms and say, let's benchmark again and see again. You can, and some of customers can do it. They always they can try and go back. It doesn't really happen to us a lot. Maybe twice, I think it's happened when They benchmark a month or two and then they come back because eventually the data doesn't lie.
I mean, once you stop, you also immediately start seeing churn go up, I assume, right? So at least that kind
Yeah.
of solves your,
Kind
your
of
selling
immediate.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, then maybe ego comes into play again, where whoever said, okay, we're gonna stop this, like, they're almost too embarrassed to call you and say, like, hey, I'm sorry.
Don't be embarrassed about your business. We are here. We are happy to facilitate. After a while, you see those patterns and you see different people and you see different reaction. But yeah, it all goes back to aligning again with the customer to show the value again, making sure we are benchmarking
Yeah.
together. That's really key for us. So it's a cycle and it happens.
I mean, I've been challenging you a lot right now on outcome-based pricing, as if I'm skeptical or against. No, I'm definitely in favor. I'm just trying to make sure like the whole picture is here. But like, I think it's time to actually go to the benefits. Like, why do you go to these challenges? Like, why is outcome-based working for you? Like, what's the benefit?
Yeah. So outcome-based pricing on things related to payment, it's pretty unique in the market, right? It's in general, it's more unique, and AI is kind of trying to shift more, and we will see it more because it just makes sense when the cost of software going down and the ability to show more outcome going up. Then you want to continue to align. It doesn't mean that the psychology of people doesn't work and everyone is kind of used to paying subscription. It still happen and it will happen, maybe another year, maybe another two, maybe more. But eventually the benefits are super clear. In our business, we can show a number, we can show percentages of recovery, and the value for you is tangible. Like, there are different types. So I always say that the biggest benefits that we are a revenue generating product. What's the challenge? When a CFO kind of buys us, the CFO is buying budgeting, FP&A, the ERP. They don't use really to buy a revenue generating product
They
in the
look
back
more
end of
about
the
like,
payment.
yeah, they're looking to reduce costs, right? And you're saying I'm gonna make you money. So it's
Right.
almost, yeah.
So it's very weird, right? Because the CFO, the founders are the best persona in the organization. That most of the time you'll get sales tools, marketing tools, development tool. We are sitting on your payment stack. We are optimizing your payment. We are
Yeah.
revenue generating. So it's another leap of kind of trying to educate, trying to understand what those guys are really doing, where is the credibility is coming from, and kind of aligning. So I think, but eventually, when we get the right people in the top companies in the world in the subscription, it's just the connection in there, and the value is very, very clear.
I mean, at least the CFO should be appreciative of the fact there's less risk, right? Because those are the people, generally speaking, they are less risk or more risk averse.
Yes.
So this should kind of be connected to the way they view the world, or at least handle money. So that's interesting. But I'm also curious, like, what's the benefit for you, right? So for the client, less risk, generating money, makes absolute sense, right? Again, it sounds like a no-brainer. We've already discussed this, not so
Right.
much because of human psychology, but it should be a no-brainer. But like, for you, what's the benefit? And I don't want to put you on the spot because I don't want to say, like, have you say I'm making now 10x more money than if I would charge this, right? But like,
No,
what's
feel
the
free.
benefit for you?
So feel free to put me on the spot. I'll try. So eventually the benefit for us, one is to align with the customer, which is really important because it's contribute to our lifetime value, to happy customers, to kind of, it makes sense. Second, it's kind of helping us to predict where we are going regarding
Yeah.
the revenue. You're right that it might have changes in the revenue cycle for us, but in most companies that are trying to grow, we kind of grow with them, and it's really beautiful most of the time. So you were saying before the challenge of being too much successful. We still give them the certainty that if they will grow like 2x by 6 months, we still find a solution with them that will make sense for both sides. But eventually, yeah, we get more happy customers. We get, I would say, over time, more revenue, which is really important because the quality of what we are doing kind of showcase in the pricing as well. It's a way to show value for the customer, but really for us as well too. And that's kind of
Yeah.
this is the alignment, I think. So this is the real benefit for us.
You just said two things I definitely want to dive a bit deeper on. One is the business case, and again, we discussed this when we first met. I definitely want to spend some time on that, but maybe before that is, you said like it's less predictable, right? It can go up and down. I'm curious, like, if you talk to investors, how do they view this? Because for them, it might also be new, relatively speaking. They understand it probably more easily, but they might not know how to put a number on it. SaaS, at least, like just subscription, very predictable, right? Like that's why SaaS works. Like you know how much you're gonna get next month, except for the broken payments, obviously. But like, how does an investor look at outcome-based pricing and the fluctuation?
So we still have kind of a good prediction on where we are and how much money we can kind of predict down the line. But to be really honest, we never built the company for investors. So we are a really small team, really experienced in what we are doing. We are generating. We have really happy customers, and the trajectory of the company just to continue to do this. Investors, I think in this kind of climate of AI changes, some of the investors trying to chase the wave, some are kind of losing the wave, some don't really understand it. So it really depends. As a company, we never really optimize for this. We have really amazing partner. We are also a YC company. So I think for us, really trying to go from the customer point of view and doing what's right for the company and for the customers.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the business case, because this is super interesting to me. Again, I've been working in sales for more than a decade myself as well. And I always see when I am able to really craft a business case together with my client, I'm going to get that sale. Like I'm going to close that one. I can probably charge twice as much, more easily. I have their buy-in. I will see all the stakeholders involved generally, right? It makes the whole process easy if you do enterprise sales and you make a business case together with the client, especially if in the business case you can kind of show an ROI. I think this is something a lot of business are like, if they could improve one thing and they improve the whole business from a tiny change, it is this.
Yes.
But it sounds to me like outcome-based almost forces you. Maybe it's specific to FlyCode, I'm not sure, but at least for you guys, it sounds like outcome-based is really forcing you to sit down with the client and show, this is your problem, this is how much we think we can add, do you buy into that? And then, hey, are you actually willing to put skin in the game by saying, if we increase it, we're taking a percentage? Like, how do you think about this? And like, do you see like doing this also makes it easy to do sales?
So yeah, I think you're right. It does force us to do this process of ROI. Sometimes it's really challenging with customers because sometimes it's really hard to get the data. If you did like custom build integration with 3 providers and you have internal subscription tools and all the reports are not organized, it's becoming, to make this business case, it's really, really hard. Now you put us in a situation where we're really struggling. We need to gather the information for the company, find the right system, find the right people to share it. Now you made it really, really hard. We are trying to take an approach to make it more easy with apps and ability to install it fast. But in these specific cases, if you've done a lot of things that are custom and everything is internal system, more challenging to show the ROI. That's very, very clear there. And the business, and sometimes it's also challenging for founders to buy like this because they used to say, okay, and we are thinking about it too, like how we can really work with startups that are, let's say, smaller in the market, still have the problem. They want to go fast, they want to get the pricing and just go. So we are adding a lot of more calculators in the website, like tell us your MRR, tell us your fail payment. We'll at least give you the pricing and you can rely on it and we'll start at least together to give you value. So the benefits we spoke, but the challenges is exactly this. If I want to go to FlyCode and sign up now and get a price and start, like a lot of founders might want to do, not always it's easy to do it, right? It's not always clear. And it's a challenge for us, and we are trying to figure it out, and we are working to add more kind of pricing and calculators and stuff, or maybe even to say in some of the cases, okay, tell us, like, try to find a hybrid way between the outcome base and really what's kind of the customer wants. But I think we kind of made the choice, at least for now. So we kind of focusing on the companies that do want to take the journey, and it's important for them to take all the process. But it's something that we are still evolving. Definitely a challenge.
Yeah, because on the other side, you also then see companies who just say, fuck it, I'm like, it's outcome-based pricing. I don't pay them until I actually like go down with my churn. so there's nothing to lose. So they don't really care about the business case. They just say, hey, let's just try it because there's no real skin in the game anyway. Like, do you also see those companies always saying, no, hey, these are the ones we're going to do in the future, and now we focus on the bigger ones?
Yeah, it's interesting enough. Like it's not something that I expected, but sometimes the vertical SaaS platforms, like the platforms that are managing like the B2B to either B or C, will take like a public a case study in the website that we have, like a Workies, but it's just an example of a platform. Sometimes the platform for them is like, it's easier to say because it's a transferable cost anyway sometimes, and the revenue is super clear. So even with them, that they are a huge platform, that they are vertical SaaS platform, they have, I don't know, a dozen. So we have like health a platform, like healthcare a platform that are vertical SaaS, that under the healthcare platform there are like 100 businesses, and sometimes for them it's easier because the value is clear. I can start, I can pay on the outcome, and it just makes sense for my, I would call it like the B2B or my sub kind of accounts. It makes sense for them. So it's interesting. It's something that we didn't expect, but it just sometimes shows that the size is not predictable to the challenge of the sale sometimes. Sometimes to sell now to a startup of 5 people that want to pay $500 a month, for us it might be more challenging at the moment.
No, I can imagine.
But we're still trying.
I mean, the self-serve generally, like a lot of people nowadays think they can just start a tech company, a SaaS company, AI company, whatever, and they start with self-serve, but that almost never works out. Like most of those stories, they start out, figure it out with a few bigger customers, right, and then make the self-serve motion, because like you said, it can be such a headache, right, just for the $500. So that's interesting. Maybe one more challenge, and maybe this isn't necessarily in pricing, but it's related, I guess, is that I can imagine the client saying, hey, you say I'm going to generate revenue for you, right? Because it's going to be lost otherwise. But the client might say, well, we already prognosed, right? We already said we're going to get this revenue. So it not coming in, that is just some additional cost or something, right? And that is not necessary. So you're not generating revenue. We were just already expecting to get this. And now you're saying, hey, I want to get a cut of the money I was already expecting. Maybe there's not a problem at all, but I can just trying to get into your most stubborn customer, right? Is this a way they also think, or?
Yeah, so I think the most stubborn one might think like this, like in the beginning. I think the most challenging one sometimes is the ones that don't believe. They think they have a setup with, I don't know, Shopify, Stripe, ChargeBee, enough. Like whatever we recover. Even companies that lose, like really, I have a customer last week, they are losing 600,000 every month. Every month they are lost. And I'm like, okay, we might go to the platform, we'll ask them what to do, maybe they will add a bit of this. And I'm like, great, try it, come back in 2 months and let's see the results. So those are the most stubborn ones, the one that are kind of, they don't believe, or they think that, other platforms, like their native platform might help them. And I'm like, yes, they can help you, but it's not as big as this, but try. And most of the time, if you have the data for a year or 2 years, then it's really easy. If you don't, or it's challenging, or you think it won't solve it, then it's more challenging.
That's super interesting. So we just have a few minutes left, so maybe a bit more forward-looking and beyond FlyCode as well. Do you think outcome-based, again, it's a lot of, some people believe it's the holy grail. I think the truth is in the middle. I think attribution, it's set apart for a very specific set of companies, but that's on the side of the people, on the tech side. But then I'm curious about the customer side, right? Do you think it's a transitional phase where we now have to educate our customers on outcome-based and usage-based, and it will become easier and easier? Because a lot of what we discussed today is the irrationality of the bias, right? Even in B2B. Do you think this will go away? Do you feel confident about that? Or do you think, no, outcome-based will always have a large struggle in explaining and taking the customer by the hand?
Yeah, I think the outcome-based pricing will probably continue to grow in industries or product that the outcome is kind of more clear. So the attribution is solved and it
Yeah.
just makes sense. So it's easier to measure, the attribution is clear, and the pricing just makes sense for the customers. In other industry, I'm not that sure that the transition will happen. I, it might be because the business model won't be true, and that's also very legit. I just wish the people will try to get over the seats based and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, it's sometimes this part really challenging for me. I found that some of the companies just adopted subscription without really understanding what does it mean for them. You are limiting your growth because you are limiting me on seat base on other. So I would say that pricing eventually is a strategical part of the business, and a lot of people just set it up and think, it will be, we have pricing. A lot of companies, from what we are seeing, are not doing enough pricing tests at all, and they are not really kind of looking at the pricing as something really strategic, to test, to iterate, to change the pricing page, to understand what our customer wants, what is the pricing that will help them to actually grow with you.
Yeah.
They lock the customers for like a year or 2 years or 3. We kind of never done it. We don't think it's right in our business, but so it really depends, I think, in the products and in the industries of the future.
I think this is a perfect place to end because this was basically you pitching my personal company, right, Refix. So I think that's a great place to end. Thank you so much for your time today. This was super interesting. I definitely learned a lot, especially stuff I didn't expect before the call. So again, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we can stay in touch, and perhaps in a few months we'll do another episode and say, hey, what are the learnings now that you're a bit further, right? And maybe you struggled a bit more with outcome based. I'm super curious. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks a lot.